Welcome, everyone, to CHF Canada's webinar on becoming a CHF Canada Director or a member of the Finance and Audit Committee. We hope to give you some general information that will be helpful to you if you're deciding or if you've already decided to run for election. I would take this opportunity to advise you this webinar will be recorded and posted to our website. Though attendee images and voices will not be recorded, if you don't wish to participate in the recorded session, you should log off now. I will take this opportunity while you're thinking about that to also offer a land acknowledgement. I acknowledge that I'm speaking today from Ottawa, the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. I recognize the Algonquins as the customary keepers and defenders of the Ottawa River watershed and its tributaries, and honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this beautiful territory and uphold and uplift the voice and values of our host nation. Further, I respect and affirm the inherent and treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across this land. I will continue to honor the commitments to self-determination and sovereignty we have made to Indigenous nations and peoples. This information session is being held in a webinar format, so attendees won't be able to turn on their cameras or unmute themselves. You'll only be able to see and hear the presenters. If you have any questions or comments, please type them into the chat box, which will be moderated. We will bring comments and questions to the attention of the presenters at various intervals. This webinar is being offered with simultaneous interpretation in English and French. To access this, please press Interpretation in your Zoom window on the bottom toolbar and choose your language preference now. I would now like to introduce the directors who are participating in this webinar, all of whom are also serving on the 2024 Nominating Committee. In alphabetical order, we have April Ager-White, Director, Indigenous Community from London, Ontario; John Bathurst, Director at Large from Burnaby, BC; Lee Campbell, Director at Large from Halifax, Nova Scotia, who's unable to join us today, but is a member of this year's Nominating Committee; and Isabel Sioc, our Regional Director for Alberta Northwest Territories from Calgary, Alberta. We would invite you to type the position you're interested in running for if you already know it, and if you wish, into the chat box. I would now invite each director in turn to give you a little general information about their experience on our board of directors. Over to you, April.
Hello, my name is April. My English name is April, and I am the Indigenous Communities Director on the CHF Board of Canada, and I'm also the chair of the Nominating Committee. I wanted to be a director because I was interested in learning so much more. As you may or may not know, I used to be a employee for a co-op housing here in London, and I wanted to learn more once I became a co-op housing member myself. I've served since just this past June, 2023, and in that time since I've been serving, what I've learned is that CHF Canada has a very, very good process for being a board member. And one of the things that surprised me is the level of diversity on the CHF board. I think we have all the boxes checked, which is a really nice thing. And what do I get out of being a director? Well, I get the opportunity to learn and meet new people and learn about all the different co-ops across Canada. And that's something I'm really interested in, and seeing all the different ways that co-ops can help with housing throughout our nation. Thank you.
Hi, I'm up next, so I'll go ahead. John Bathurst here from Burnaby, British Columbia, coming to you from the Coast Salish peoples of British Columbia and Burnaby Mountain, specifically Forest Grove Drive, where we host 4 amazing, successful co-ops. I've lived here with my family since 1987, and it's been an absolute delight to participate in both our co-op and activities relative to CHF British Columbia, including the Aging in Place committee. And my passion for co-ops is pretty extreme. I see co-ops as the future to housing an insane planet in a sane way, and believe it's the future to how we can solve many problems, including Canada's crazy housing market. I've been on the board for 8 months now, so I'm pretty new, and I've learned a few things. I think to highlight, first of all, how well run CHF Canada is financially and organizationally. I'm impressed with the people on staff. I give a particular shout out to Christine and Karen right now, and anybody who's planning on putting their name in will find them most helpful at the beginning stages. But beyond that, they're awesome as well. The thing that impresses me, and I've lived in from Ontario to British Columbia with Quebec as a 6-year interim. So I really do bleed red for Canada, and this organization represents Canada very well, and I'm impressed with, as April said, the diversity and the way we embrace diversity, but also the different ways that co-ops express themselves in different parts of Canada. There's quite a diversity in that, and I'm still learning and hoping that as a director from the West Coast, we integrate the good from all of Canadian cooperative movements. So really, I'd wrap it up with that's what I get. It's an amazing experience in the short time I've been involved, and I look forward to working with the absolutely amazing directors that we have. I'm sure some of them will be back, and the ones that are staying are awesome people too. So that's my 2 cents worth. And if you plan on joining, you won't be disappointed if you get a seat on the board.
Thanks, John. As noted, Lee's unable to attend today, but did provide some notes that I could read on their behalf. So I'll take the opportunity to do so now. Lee had written, I wanted to contribute to the cooperative housing movement on a national level, in addition to my advocacy and professional work in the nonprofit housing and shelter sector locally. I believe that housing is a human right. Somewhere along the line, society has forgotten that there's a human element to housing, and I wanted to remind people that humanity is a part of housing. The human experience is what connects us, and hearing people's stories allow us to create a national community of housing cooperators and strengthens our movement. That's something I knew I would be proud to be a part of. It was also important to me to run and be a representation for people like me who are often underrepresented in these types of organizations. If you're elected, you're immediately thrown into the deep end, and if that sounds both exciting and overwhelming, well, you're right. It can be a steep learning curve, especially with the amount of moving parts CHF Canada has, but there are many knowledgeable CHF Canada staff members and fellow board members that you can rely on. I've already been provided so many wonderful opportunities since being elected as a director at large last June that have greatly benefited me personally and professionally. I view this role not just as a volunteer position, but also a form of continuing education. I'm constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning things. Anyone who has a passion for the cooperative housing movement can be an effective director, even if you don't have a ton of experience. You may not check all the boxes, but if you have knowledge of the co-op housing movement, are willing to work collaboratively, communicate mindfully, think critically, and ask questions, you have what it takes to be a good board member. Bringing your own experiences while being open and accepting of the experiences of others at the table can create a respectful open space for challenging discussions and decision-making. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am joining from Calgary, Alberta. So the first question we have here is, why did I want to be a director? So I have lived in my local co-op since I was 5 years old, and at the age of 21, I joined the local board. And I was lucky to be sent to CHF Canada's AGM in 2015 when it was in Charlottetown. And it was my first time ever going to East Canada. And that's when I realized how big the co-op movement was beyond just my local housing co-op. And so closer to the end of my double 3-year term on my local board, I joined the provincial federation and then CHF Canada a year later. And so I was actually able to experience what it was like to sit on all 3 levels of governance at the same time for 1 year. And I thought that was super cool. And so I specifically joined the CHF Canada's board June 2020, peak COVID season. It was virtual at first, and it was quite a learning experience. So in terms of what I have learned and or what has surprised me while being on the board, I definitely was pleasantly surprised, as it has been mentioned already, the diversity of the board, the variety of opinions and experiences, and the ability to express them at the table and to be felt heard. And in terms of what I get out of being a director, so I really am interested in board norms and meeting rules and things like that. And so one thing I really got out of this experience is being able to see on a national level how the board meetings are run and how different it is to how my local board meetings are run and how the meetings are run on the provincial federation. And just being able to recognize, learn, and understand that you can still run board meetings slightly differently with each organization, and that's okay too. Thank you for your time.
So you might be wondering if you have the right qualifications to be a director. So I'm going to read off some of these qualifications. In accordance with our bylaws and the Canada Cooperatives Act, a director must be an individual of not less than 18 years of age, does not have the status of bankrupt, and has not been found incapable by a court. In addition, a director at the time of their election and throughout their term in office must be a member in good standing, director, officer, or employee of a CHF Canada member. At the time of election, the CHF Canada member you are representing must be a member in good standing as well. If you're wondering if you have the right qualifications to be a director, here are some other things that you should know. This year, elections are being held for regional and at-large directors and an at-large finance and audit committee member. For all openings, whether at-large or regional, we look for candidates who have a commitment to CHF Canada and the wider co-op movement, integrity, honesty, effective listening and communication, collaboration, negotiation, and innovative thinking skills and experience. Skills and experience in areas such as financial literacy, strategic planning, governance, and a knowledge of the co-op housing sector. A diversity of lived experiences. To stand for election for the Finance and Audit Committee position, in addition to the requirements just noted, you must be financially literate and have an understanding of CHF Canada's business. The nominating committee will pre-qualify candidates. Though not being elected this year, to stand for election for the Indigenous community position, which is considered a regional seat, you must also declare in writing that you are of North American Indigenous ancestry.
Okay, John here again. What does the board of directors do? First, we advise the membership. We're guided in our actions by the will of members as expressed in bylaws and resolutions adopted at members' meetings. Working with the organization's objects, mission, and mandate, the board seeks to strengthen both the national cooperative housing movement and CHF Canada as an association within the movement. And again, advises the membership, ensures that CHF Canada acts with integrity and with attention to its best interest, secures the future of CHF Canada, leads the cooperative housing movement in Canada, directs some of the business of CHF Canada, including admitting members and associates, electing officers, establishing organizational structures, appointing, fixing the remuneration of, supervising and evaluating executive director, and approving personnel and compensation policies, adopting and monitoring strategic and annual operating plans and budgets, approving the financial statements, and presenting them to the members at the annual meeting, recommending dues levels to the members, reporting to the members, evaluates the effectiveness as a board. What does Finance and Audit Committee do? So the Finance and Audit Committee receives and recommends budgets by staff to the board, receives annual and monthly interim financial statements, advises the board on financial policies, receives compliance reports on financial policies, resolutions set by the board and members, meets with the auditor, makes recommendations to the board on the audited financial statements, auditor report to management, and the annual audit plan, and reports to the members of CHF Canada's finances at each annual meeting. What is the time involved to be a director? The board routinely meets 4 times per year. In 2024, 3 of those meetings are in person and 1 virtual, though some years it may be more or less in person. 2 of the in-person meetings will normally occur in Ottawa, and the 3rd in-person meeting in the city hosting that year's annual meeting. 2024, it'll be in Winnipeg. Meetings generally occur at the end of the week and continue on to Saturday, and there would be additional travel time the day before and after to get to the meeting and home as well. What is the time involved to be a director? If needed, there are Zoom and email meetings throughout the year. Additional time commitment of serving on a committee of the board, standing or ad hoc, such as nominating committee, resolutions committee, finance and audit committee, awards committee. The amount of time required is variable depending on the committee. For instance, choosing award recipients once a year will likely be far less a time commitment than serving on a nominating committee, which meets virtually, usually 5 times per year, mid-December through early May. And the committee chair has a role at the annual meeting.
So what is the time involved to be a Finance and Audit Committee member? The committee routinely meets 2 times per year in 2024. 1 of those meetings is expected to be in person and 1 virtual. The in-person meetings are held in Ottawa on a Friday in late October, with members traveling, if needed, the day before and the day after. So what supports are available to you as a director or a Finance and Audit Committee member? CHF Canada pays the travel, hotel, per diem, food costs for all directors and committee members, as well as daycare expenses if out of pocket to attend meetings to a maximum, depending on how many children. Lost wages are also covered to a daily maximum for directors only to attend board meetings, not committee meetings, If you don't work for a housing co-op or other CHF Canada member, for 2024, the daily maximum amount is $207.48. So in terms of the nomination and election process, for copies of forms and all the details you'll need about what's required to run for the election, visit our website at chfcanada.coop/AGM 2024 and click the box Elections. The nomination deadlines are as follows. For the at-large directors, we have April 30th. For the regional directors, we have March 15th. And for the Finance and Audit Committee member, it is also March 15th. You will need to send in your completed and signed candidate declaration form and the confirmation of good standing form to be signed by the member you're representing by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the deadline date to have your nomination accepted. So allow some time for this to be done. In addition, you're asked to supply a short bio, photo, and a video up to 2 minutes, which will be used to promote your candidacy on our website in advance of the annual meeting and at the annual meeting itself. Your bio and video should let our members know more about you and why they should vote for you. This is important to provide by the deadline, as candidates attending the annual meeting in person will not be given time to speak to the members at the business meeting. Only the videos will be played. More specific information about campaigning and these additional requests will be emailed to you once we've received your completed nomination papers. So for the elections, for the region elections, the online election will be ending on April 21st, and the at-large and Finance and Audit Committee member will be at the annual meeting.
So the nomination and election process is as follows. So you might want to know what happens if you're elected. There will be a post-AGM board meeting on a Sunday morning. Staff will rearrange your travel and hotel accommodation to stay over to the Sunday. And because board meetings have been scheduled to the end of the year, you'll want to mark your calendars right away with the dates of the remaining in-person meetings, which are September 12th through 14th in Ottawa and November 22nd and 23rd in Ottawa.
Just before we head to questions, we would ask for your feedback on this session and a very short evaluation to help make improvements for our next webinar. The evaluation will open in your browser when this webinar ends, so please do take just a couple of seconds to complete that if you wouldn't mind. And now, if any of you have questions for our directors, we would be happy to answer them all. I would ask directors to turn on their cameras and unmute themselves. Are there any questions? Give them a couple of seconds to type, just in case people are slow typers. Okay, no questions. That's great. If anything comes to mind, please do just send an email to any one of the nominating committee or myself. The information is in the webinar, which you can view after this webinar within a few days on our website. It will be made available. I'd like to say thank you to our directors for sharing their experiences here today again, and thank you to our participants for taking the time to attend on a Saturday. I hope the session has been helpful in providing some information and answering any questions you might have had about becoming a CH Canada director or member of the Finance and Audit Committee, and look forward to seeing you at this year's annual meeting in Winnipeg. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.